What's good, y'all? It's called, I've been very, very, very frustrated with Europeans, with people that look like me and who share an ancestral lineage with me. My primary frustration is we've been so severely miseducated, we don't know how to think. And we've been stripped of our ability to use logic and reason. Also, we sit on a pedestal of slavery and colonization, and we sit so high, even those of us who are busting our ass all day, every day, working nonstop, we sit so high on a pedestal of slavery that we can't even see the world for what it truly is. And if we had the gun to our head or the threat of rape at our doorstep every day, we would feel the same sense of urgency that the rest of the world feels, or that colonized peoples who are confined to these artificial borders of the United States feel. So let's be very clear. This land is not the Europeans. It never has been. It never will be. What's going down in Standing Rock, what's going down with this new administration is a continuation of 600 years of colonial theft. And I think there's only one example I can think of that really illustrates this. I was talking to a 7-year-old in my family a couple weeks ago, and we were actually talking about this very thing, about stealing land from the indigenous people. And the 7-year-old goes, nobody's taking my land, European kid, by the way. Nobody's taking my land, I got a gun. I said, you ain't got no gun. He said, I got a 45. I said, you don't have a 45. He said, no, I got a Nerf gun. I said, okay. Let me break this down for you then. Let's say Lil Ricky, 2 houses down, comes and steals your Nerf gun. Is that his Nerf gun? He was like, no, it's my Nerf gun. He stole that from me. I was like, word. Well, it's his now, so deal with it. Ricky grows up, has a kid, and gives that Nerf gun to that kid. Now, is it that kid's Nerf gun? He said, no, it's still my Nerf gun. He took it from me. I said, he didn't take it from you. His dad did. He's only known that Nerf gun was his whole life. How could you take that back from him? He's like, nah, it's mine. I want it back. I said, okay, fine. Let's play this out a little bit longer. So Lil Ricky's kid has a kid when he gets older, and he gives him that Nerf gun. Is it still your Nerf gun? He was like, yeah, it's always been my Nerf gun. Just because he passed it along to a different guy doesn't mean that it's not mine. I said, well, then perfect. This isn't our land. It never has been. It never will be. And until we return it, any sort of solidarity that we feel with black and indigenous people is a fucking joke. Unless you're willing to give back what you never earned, you are a opportunist and a liar. And if you are not even willing to admit that this isn't ours in the first place, you're a fool. And I'm not saying this, maybe I'm saying this because I'm fucking frustrated. And I am, because you guys are better than this. If a 7-year-old can figure out this logic, then y'all can figure this out. And I want more for you. I believe that we have the ability to fucking think. We have the ability to say, oh shit, okay, yeah, it's getting hot out here. It's getting very, very hot. There's clearly something wrong. Oh wait, I'm in the middle of this? Oh, maybe I have some sort of responsibility here. Maybe I have some sort of responsibility. Oh, literally every article of clothing I have, literally every piece of food I eat is stolen? Damn. And the people who are mining these raw materials, who are sowing these goods, who are harvesting these foods, they're not even able to eat these foods? They're not even able to wear clothes or have shoes? You gotta be kidding me, man. None of you are that selfish. I hope none of you are that selfish, man. None of this shit is ours. We gotta give it back. I mean, I was taught that my whole life. How was I raised in a Christian society that taught me, thou shalt not steal? And yet everything we have is stolen, and we're unwilling to give it back. And I understand you said I bought this, I worked hard my whole life to buy this. Sure, you might have worked your entire life. You might have busted your ass. I know I busted my ass to the point that my body has failed me time and time again. What I do also know is that I'm driving a car right now. And as hard as I worked for the car that I drive in, I did not mine any of the raw materials to make this car. I didn't slave away on a rubber plantation so that I could have these wheels, right? And even if I worked in a factory in the U.S., which I've worked in warehouses, but even if I worked in a factory, I got a union job with a pension, with yada yada, health insurance, all these other amenities. I might be doing backbreaking work, but it's certainly not like those who are slaving away in mines, who are having the threat of rape and murder at their doorstep all day, every day. So I know I sounded frustrated. Most of you usually probably see me more composed. Fuck it. It's urgent. We have to change our ways right now. This world cannot take us exploiting it any longer, and the peoples of this world will not take us doing this any longer.
All right. Islam, and welcome to Moorish Heritage and History School. This is Anita L. and RVBey.
RVBey. How are you all? Islam.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I kind of like last minute I wanted you suggested that we play that again so that we could pick up on the continuum of current affairs tonight, and put that on the table and kind of break some of that down because it's nothing new in terms of what the source and the reason for why this modern European is saying that. Other than, of course, the prophecy has already been made that the Europeans would tell the truth. But the source of why he's saying that is nothing new, nor is it different from what we and others have been saying for a long time. Kind of sets the stage for this, as he called it, urgent, because it really represents everybody being forced to make change just because it's urgent. All right. It's fine. Go ahead.
Yes.
I yield the floor.
Yes. Well, you know what? Just to let everyone know, this is the first Wednesday, and it's the first Wednesday of the month, and we intended all right. We intended for tonight's class to be given by someone else, but that didn't happen. So what we're doing today is we're going to do a live broadcast via the Blog Talk Radio. So we do not have a on-site class tonight. And what people definitely need to be in the habit of doing is checking the RVBey Publications website just to be sure on the first Wednesday if there's going to be an on-site class or if it's just going to be a Blog Talk Radio broadcast. So I just wanted to get that out the way. And then tonight's broadcast is actually entitled Let's Talk About Current Events. And it's maybe possibly a new segment that we might continue because there's so many things that are happening across the nation, and it's just not enough to talk about it all in one broadcast. We have Tuesday broadcast, which is open. We usually put a topic on the table, and then we open it up to callers to discuss what the topic that was put on the table, and then, to possibly address any other conversations, questions, or comments that our listening audience may have that relates to the subject or maybe something else. But you know what? It's all relative because regardless of whether we have a topic or not.
I can't hear you that well. Can you just speak more direct just a little bit?
Can you hear me now?
That's better. Thank you.
All right. Whether we have a topic or not, these broadcasts, these classes, everything is actually about helping people to recognize that on Moroccan soil, referred to as America, the people reign supreme. The people reign supreme, and so that needs to be completely comprehended by everyone. So this is why we do these classes and these broadcasts. So tonight's broadcast, as I said, is entitled "Let's Talk About Current Affairs." So let's talk about some current affairs. Last night we talked a little bit about Trump, and it's not necessary to talk about Trump, but what it is necessary to talk about is the people comprehending that Trump, anyone who sits in any of those seats, they're public servants. They don't have a right to do whatever they want. That is, I got a post from somebody on Facebook, I think it was, regarding Sally Yates getting fired. Because in actuality, she got fired because she refused to follow a directive that was unconstitutional. And so there was a post regarding that said, hey, I hire you to do a job. You don't agree, you're fired. This ain't college. You want to change the world, go work for free. That's what the comment said. Now look at this. Comment is referring to a job that you would have like at Walmart or Verizon, or an executive job, but at Walmart, Verizon, an attorney's office or something like that. In those types of jobs, you are hired. Yes, you are. But when you're sitting in a public servant seat where you take an oath that binds you to the American Constitution, that's not, even though you are getting compensated, that's not your everyday run-of-the-mill type of job. You work for the people. You're supposed to be representing the people, and your job is to protect the interests of the people. Even though Trump, who is simply just another fellow public servant, gave an order, personal though it may be in nature, his fellow public servants had an obligation to ignore it because it is unconstitutional. Unconstitutional. And people need to get clear about what the obligation, the bound obligation of all public servants are. Because as long as you think they got a job like you would go get an executive job at Walmart or Neiman Marcus or Verizon or any of these other types of corporations, if you think that they have a job like that, then you're highly mistaken. Highly mistaken. That's not the role of a public servant at all.
I think they yeah, I am. I think that show he did, The Apprentice, kind of desensitized people as well. They're used to, maybe they enjoyed that show and they don't realize that what you're saying is that this is not a job, a general job. This is a trustee position, a public service position. Yeah. And then you also said, go ahead. No,
I'm saying yes, you're right.
Yeah, and now, if the people realize this, now go to the rule of law, the national constitution of which they must always remain in harmony with, and find out the job duty or the responsibilities of that particular position called the President of the United States of America. That doesn't mean America. It means United States of America. And then you find, wait a minute, they're only allowed to execute law that exists. They're not even allowed to make any new law. And we've been telling people for how long to look at this, and it's been ignored or whatever like that, out of ignorance and out of not teaching it or learning it or whatever in whatever schools you go to, in color of law instead of law, which governs this entire land. So now maybe this will force people to look at that and say, well, I'll be darned. Because I had someone today that I was talking with, and they said, yeah, but, you're talking about the national constitution, but the states have their constitution. I said, you haven't read the constitution at all, have you? Because Article 6 tells you that they can't make anything that violates the supreme law, which is the national constitution. So the next step, I guess, if people get what you're saying of who he is, or whoever is in that position is, now you see that they can't even make no law at all that violates the rights of the people. They never could, but they were doing it due to our lack, because many people were also agreeing to be citizens of the United States of America, which was only established for those who were foreigners and not for the natural people, the Aboriginal Indigenous Moors, not for them, and not for those who even think that they're descendants of Africans. It wasn't established for you either, if that's what you think. Now, how do you get to know that? By actually enforcing the law of the land, no matter who you are. It's wrong. Are you there? Uh-oh.
I'm talking, and I was muted.
You do it all the time. I was going to say it, and I know the people listening are saying, yeah, she's talking with her mind muted. Yeah. It just caused a discontinuum of thought. I'm like, wait a minute. That was a segue in. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So here's the thing, and people do this as just an
You're too
exercise.
low. Something's wrong with your transmission. You're too low. You sound like you're not direct in the phone. I apologize to interrupt you, but I thought maybe it was my phone, but it's not.
All right. I switched to a different phone and my earpiece.
Okay.
Is that better?
All right. Yeah, go ahead. You just sound like you're moving away from the mic from time to time, and you're distant. That's what it sounded like.
Oh, no, I got my earpiece in.
All right.
Is it still sounding low?
No, I guess it's all right. It just might be me.
All right.
If somebody doesn't see you and say the same thing, then it is definitely me.
All right.
All right. So go ahead and.
What I would suggest people do, first of all, this is just a little exercise. Go and read Article 1 and Article 2 of the American Constitution. I'm going to tell you what it says because I know it by heart. Article 1 of the American Constitution, 1791, states that all legislative power is vested in the Congress of the United States. It says some other things there, but that's the first sentence. That's all that's important at this, pertaining to this conversation. And Article 2, it says all executive power is vested in the President of the United States of America. Now, Article 1 and Article 2 is letting you know that there is supposed to be a United States. In the preamble, it lets you know this too. There's supposed to be United States and United States of America. Each is supposed to have a president. Trump is the President of the United States of America. That means that Trump only has executive power. He doesn't have legislative power, doesn't have judicial power. All right? Now, if you go, then Article 1, it says that only Congress has legislative powers. That means that only Congress can write law. Now, if you go and you look at many of the state constitutions, they try to duplicate the federal government in that they claim to have a legislative, executive, and judicial department or branch. But in Article 3 of the American Constitution, it states that all judicial power shall be vested in the one Supreme Court of the United States and any inferior court that they may establish from time to time. Now, what they're telling you is that these states, their judicial system only kicks in if Congress delegates judicial authority to them. This legislative power that they allege to have, they do not have it. And I'm going to tell you why they don't have it. Everybody needs to go and read those state constitutions because they say that they have established a General Assembly. All right? This is what they say. The General Assembly was established from Great Britain. Many of them are established under the powers of Great Britain. If you go and you read it, it will tell you. I'm trying to pull up one right now because I did the research. You can go right on. If you Google any of these states, they don't have no problem publishing their General Assembly, the history of their General Assembly. No problems whatsoever. So when you start looking at these state General Assemblies, there is nowhere in the American Constitution does it sanction a General Assembly for obvious reasons. Well, I guess it's not too obvious, is it?
True.
Not very obvious. The reason why the General Assembly is not sanctioned is because the whole structure of the American Constitution, the relationship of the federal government, what's called today the federal government and the state government, is to make it so that no federal or state entity can infringe on the people's rights ever again. Every single union, every single state of the union signs off that they will never infringe on the liberties of the people ever again. This is what they signed off to. That's how come they're a part of the union. They're not the United States. They're the Union States. Really, far enough in the congressional records, you'll find them addressed as the Union States of America, not the United States of America, the Union States of America, because that's what they are. But if you go and you look it up, like these General Assemblies, and I'm trying to find, I know I had printed out a lot of them at one time, from like the Maine all the way down, and it's right on Wikipedia. I mean, and a lot of people turn their nose up at Wikipedia, but here for Connecticut, it says the three settlements that would become Connecticut, which is Hartford, Wethersfield, and Windsor, were established in 1633 and were originally governed by the Massachusetts Bay Company on the terms of a commission for settlement. When the commission expired in 1636 and the Connecticut colony was established, the legislature was established as the General Court, that's C-O-R-T-E, consisting of 6 magistrates along with 3-member committees representing each of the 3 towns. In 1639, the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut were adopted, which changed the spelling to General Court formalizing its executive, judicial, and legislative authority, and changed its membership to consist of the governor and 6 magistrates. Although the magistrates and the deputies sat together, they voted separately, and in 1645, it was decreed that a measure had to have the approval of both groups in order to pass. Charter of 1662 changed the name to the General Assembly while replacing the 6 magistrates with 12 assistants and reducing the number of deputies per town to no more than 2. In 1698, the General Assembly divided itself into its current bicameral form, with the 12 assistants as the council and the deputies as the House of Representatives. This is what is currently still in operation. Where did it originate? Great Britain. It originated from 1633 from the charter issued by the King of Great Britain. The same applies to New York. The same applies to New Jersey. All of these general assemblies were established by foreign entities. Today, if you go into any of the state legislative buildings, they have a general assembly that is alleging to write law. That's unconstitutional. They don't have any power to write law. It's right in the Constitution. What they do have the power to do is administer, but only if the President of the United States of America has delegated some of his executive power to the people. It's right there, but you know what? They do not teach this in the schools, and they count on the vast majority of people never looking into it. Literally.
That's right. It's not taught. And that's why everyone knows, they, like you had said before, everyone knows they've been miseducated, but they won't take the time out to get to proper information. But yet they squirm and squeal that, well, you haven't educated me. Well, you know what? They have their own agenda. They're quasi-national domiciles dealing with the citizens thereof or members thereof, which is not you. But what happens is when you claim that you are, all that does for them is up the numbers of so-called citizens, right? And then, but then if you read the Constitution, you would understand why that's important, because based on that is how they get to have their electoral vote. You know, based on how many votes they can receive, it's based on how many citizens they have, and it's already spelled out. So, this is what ends up happening is that blindly you say you're a citizen of something that you could never be a citizen of because we didn't study enough to know the law. That's why it's important when people think they're citizens of the United States of America that only has executive powers with their president, with the president that exists there, and then they allow this same president to make a law that they think they're supposed to listen to because they think that is government. It's not, you know. And that brings to that portion where a lot of people out there, because of the misunderstanding of government, which means the misunderstanding of the law, because if you're governing, then you should know the law. That's damn sure. They think that the answer is, well, let's go run for mayor. Let's go run for senator. Let's go run for governor and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. You can't be any of that under that quasi-national domicile of governing body. You can't. That's not the answer. Because once you say that you are a citizen of that, then you lose all of those civil liberties. Islam.
Yes, yes. Now, this is a little blurb that I was able to find on New York's General Assembly, but it's enough for you to know that they derive their power from Great Britain, even though they try not to tell you that, because all of them, you have to understand. You go into the history of each of the original 13 colonies. All of the original 13 colonies were, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were all out of Great Britain. But here's New York General Assembly dates to 1683. Now, in 1683, there was no American Constitution. So where would the General Assembly of New York have gotten their authority from? Right. It's 1683 when proprietary governor, now governor means just the boss. So really what it's saying, when the proprietary boss, Thomas Dongan, appointed representatives to advise him on governing the province. That body was short-lived and was not reconstituted until 1691. The first elected assembly contained members. These members, after 1691, and one of the most significant sub-themes running through the history of the provincial assembly is the struggle between assembly representatives for colonial rights and prerogatives and the British or imperial agenda, personified by the royal governor. So that's letting you know that their authority comes from Great Britain, because they were struggling to find their independence, which they didn't have. So this General Assembly that is in existence still to this day is actually sanctioned under British law, British authority, British power on American soil by a union state that alleges to be bound to the American Constitution. Yet they're practicing British law on American soil. I mean, I'm just saying, as an exercise, people, you need to look up some of these things. You need to look up the General Assembly of whatever state corporation you're near, because these are corporations and not geographical locations. That's another little piece of information that was also, brought out with this whole current affairs and Trump thing, because Trump is actually out there telling people, making declarations, really, because it's not law. He's really acting like a bully. That's it, really. He's acting like a bully because he has military power to carry out whatever he says, whether it is for the people or not. Just because you have military force doesn't mean that makes it law.
Yeah, but some of those. I mean, I know military is military, but some of those that are on his those forces, they're saying we'd rather go to jail than take a bullet for him.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, let's see. What? Because one of the other things that I had posted up is the fact that he's violating the right to travel. Trump's decision based on personal feelings. His decision is based on personal feelings. He is on record as saying he doesn't like people of the Islamic faith. He doesn't like people from Islamic, or countries that embrace the Islamic religion. He doesn't like that. He's on record. So that's a personal feeling. It's a violation of the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights, Article 13, where Section 1 reads, everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Section 2, everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. Now, that's an international violation by Trump, who is a foreign colonizer, regarding issues of Moroccan soil referred to as America.
Right.
Now, and he's denying. He says, Trump said, the United States of America is denying people access. Where is that? Where is the United States of America?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Where is the United States of America? Tell me, what is the latitude and longitude of the United States of America? Because the last time I checked, in 1774, they created a construct and they called it the United States of America. It wasn't here prior to 1774. It didn't exist prior to 1774. And here's a big disconnect, because when you talk to a lot of modern Europeans, they act like they've been around for hundreds of years. All right? Well, if you was around for hundreds of years, predate 1774, what were you? Because up to 1774, you didn't have a nation. Hillary Clinton is in the Benjamin Franklin room in 2012 saying that Morocco is the only nation to recognize them as a nation. So that happened in 1774, and it was officially brought into government.
Oh, okay.
No. In the Articles of Association, they first styled themselves the United States of America. And then it was officially brought in 1786 under the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with the United States of America, because prior to that, no treaty agreement between Morocco and the United States of America, because it didn't exist.
Exactly. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Right? The treaty that got modern Europeans over here on American soil was between Morocco and Great Britain.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
They didn't have a nation. They were not a nation prior to 1774 when they created this style of the United States of America, and then 1786 when our ancestors of Morocco on what is today referred to as American soil, recognized them, and that's how they became an acknowledged nation on planet Earth. This is where Trump comes from, and he's over here denying people access to Moroccan soil. What if we had done that to his ancestors back? Because once they went and declared their independence in 1776, once they presumed to declare their independence in 1776, well, let's be clear, they could have never did that if we hadn't backed them.
We actually are the one who gave them their independence, because the British never even responded. They wanted to keep them as slaves.
That's right. The
Treaty of Peace and Friendship is what responded.
Exactly.
I'm saying the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is what responded in 1787, which is why she said the first nation, not state, not municipality or township, borough. She's the first nation to recognize us as a nation was Morocco in 1787. So she specified that. So they never really received that independence except for the Moors, Moroccan Moors. And then after that treaty allowed them to sail the seas without being pirated. And then once they got here, in masses, they had the law of the land given to them. So that's what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
Before that.
And yeah. Right. Yes. And now somebody might be saying, well, what does that have to do with current events? It has everything to have to do with current events, because the things that Trump is saying and doing today, if our ancestors had done to his ancestors, he wouldn't be standing where he is right now. That is called privilege. Trying to deny other people a privilege that his ancestors and he today benefit from. That's absolutely unconstitutional. This land is for everybody, and no foreign colonizer has the power or authority, to change that. He doesn't have that power or authority, and the only reason that it is happening is because the vast majority of people have not been educated, and so they don't even know who is who, or what is what, or where is where, or where is where.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and you're saying, what does it have to do with today? We need to recognize and acknowledge that there's still all this happening, the treaty, the Constitution, established for them. It's still, they're operating on our national domicile. That's what it has to do with today. So if the people who this national domicile ancestral estate, right, is for, don't speak up, then they're going to keep raping and murdering and colonizing, because the people who this ancestral estate is for, who allowed, you can't go back and say, well, we shouldn't have helped them, we shouldn't have. I mean, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk type thing. And, it's no should. It did happen as an extension to bring peace, right? And so it happened, and it is the law of the land, right? It is the supreme law. It is based in divine principles as well. So when you erase all of this and look at it for, well, what does it have to do with today? It has to do with they're operating on your stuff. That's what it has to do with, and you need to stand up and make that reminder. Now, I'll tell you, and most people, they always try to identify the problem. They don't realize that we're identifying it for them, and the remedy exists. They're always saying, yeah, but they've got guns and they've got this. And well, stop identifying the problem, because the answer is not in whether they have guns or not. The answer is in you, us, we, making that stand. Now, modern Europeans right now are doing the same thing and enforcing the Constitution, because it's the law. Mm-hmm. So you got lawless people who are violating the law, turning around, putting you in jail for things, saying you're violating the law, when they are the biggest violators. But their violation, because you said this is national and international, is on a level of genocide and or, same thing, human trafficking of you, because we have refused because of our lack of knowledge. Really, whatever the reason is, it's irrelevant to this day. To this current day, your reason is irrelevant as to why you didn't know, because we could break that down, why we didn't know, and go through that.
That's
right. Just like the song says, well, to traverse through history, we can do that too, and give that to you, or you could go find out. The point is, currently, the reminder is this is your ancestral estate. And so for all those who who say they enforce the profit will withdraw least work, well, good, you can find it there too. Go to chapter 47. He says you're going to gain back your heritage and your estate, and then he defines where it is, and it's right here. So now you have to know the history of right here. You have to know that this is a national domicile. They're operating on it and running amok and raping and pillaging and colonizing because you won't, because we haven't stood up to at least at minimum declare that. And it is happening, though. It has been happening, and this is just the time for it currently, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm saying that to say that some people still may not get, as you just said, what does this have to do with current events? Because an ancestral estate is an ancestral estate. It can't be bought. It can't be sold. It can't be transferred. And there really is no land that they need to give back because the land never went anywhere.
That's right.
They just, but what the European is saying is they need to recognize that this is not their home. And, you know, this is no stuff we're pulling out of our hat. They admit to you that they immigrated here. They admit to you that we're the first ones to recognize them and give them a place. They admit all of that. Not an untruth. And guess what else I thought about, Annie? It came to my mind in these days. Remember when the people from Black Lives Matter with Hillary Clinton? And remember when she said, well, we have to deal with the first sin?
Yes.
Remember that? Okay. This is what she's talking about. Yes. We have to fix that first. And it's hard for them to let it go. Why should they let go? Just like the recording that the guy said, he gave an analogy. You know, if this is your stuff, like, and I remember someone giving me this analogy. This is your coat, and you let somebody borrow it or whatever. Is it still your coat just because they're wearing it? Of course it's your coat. You didn't give it to them. You let them borrow it or whatever. You know what I mean? So, yes, we got to understand that because it's already known that they're immigrants. I mean, we even went down to Ellis Island this past summer and saw the proof in the pudding. Of course, they don't think you're going to go there and do that. And we're going to put up some analects and stuff about that to show you what we saw. And you can check it out for yourself. But that's the importance of today's current event, because if you don't, they will continue. Because why? If they didn't have a coat, back to the coat thing, if they didn't have a coat and they needed one and you let them borrow yours, they're not going to give the coat back if they're still going to freeze if they don't have it. So they're going to want to keep it. They don't want to let it go because it's been good to them in turn. But how it's been good to them is also immoral activity. It's lower self-activity. And that's what has to stop. Now, and then one last thing, Condoleezza Rice, during the Bush administration, when Brother mentioned, the European son also mentioned that they go across the world and the rest of the world is tired of that, of them colonizing and raping and stuff, right? That's why we told you their last stand is here on the American soil, and that's why you have to take your place amongst the affairs of man. But when they used Condoleezza Rice and she sold out her people, her face was the Moabite mother, and that allowed her to get into places that they would have never gotten into out of trust of that. So that was a big sellout that she did to allow them to get into these nooks and crannies and places they never would have been able to penetrate and make promises, but really colonize. You know, like going around talking about the democracy. And hey, where is democracy in the Constitution? It's not. It says the guarantee will be. And let's break that down so people can understand it. When we say, and when the Constitution says a Republican form of government, it has nothing to do with whether someone has decided in their own mind that they're a Democrat or that they're a liberal or they're a right wing or they're a left wing. All of that is irrelevant to the fact that this is a Republican form of government, guaranteed. So therefore, if all of the liberties and the civil liberties, et cetera, like that, are guaranteed through a Republican form, as soon as someone starts talking about a Democrat, that's the violation. And yes, it is. And look how long that's been going on. And everybody knows, well, they're bringing in democracy, which is mob rules. That's why Trump is sitting up there in the White House trying to be a mob ruler, because that's what the conquest or conquistadors are, mob rule. So it's gone this far. It is definitely time for people to make changes. That's why.
Yep.
Oh, and one thing, people think that it doesn't make any difference. They think that, well, it doesn't matter. He's there now. The reason he's there and all of this craziness is being exposed to you people, all of us people, is to show us what is truth about this. So much to the point where you've got people who may not be the Aboriginal indigenous people. They may be modern Europeans and descendants of same, all right, that immigrated here. Their parents and their parents' parents immigrated here. They even see this. You know?
Yep.
So it's a sign for you to wake the hell up and stop sitting and being lazy thinking someone else is going to do it. And then the bottom line is, well, if you don't, you just don't. The table that was prepared for you, you prefer not to sit at it, and whatever happens will happen. You know, that's it. But it's going to go down, and it's going to be right and just. Trust and believe that. That's a cycle of times coming through. It's going to be. You may not be able to fit into that, what they call new paradigm, because you're mentally messed up and unable to receive the truth of information. You know how it says if you open up your mind, truth will come in and make herself at home? Well, some people don't know how to open up their mind. And that's the problem with them. But nobody can do that for you, so therefore. That's wrong.
Yes. Let's talk about this not exactly the executive order per se, but where in the, and I think I said this last night, where in the American Constitution is an executive order sanctioned? I mean, has anybody ever looked this up?
And hold it. You just said a key thing. Didn't you just say that the only powers that the President of the United States have is executive? And then when you read what the executive power is, it means to enforce existing law. So for them to make up an executive order, that's a falsehood. That's what you're getting to. Go ahead.
Yes,
no power.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. We've been hearing about this executive order back from, I want to say, Abraham Lincoln, when he did an executive order, and I'm trying to remember. I think that executive order came about because the Union states, some of the Union states had rebelled. And so I believe he called an executive order because of that. I know there's more to it, and I'm going to have to research that. And maybe we all need to research it, because it would help us put a lot of things in perspective. But he's the one that called the first executive order, but nobody has ever really went and looked up exactly what an executive order is. Now, I just Googled it, and there's a question that says, so what exactly is an executive order? And it says, put simply, an executive order is a document issued by the president providing instructions to the agencies he runs, often on how a policy should be implemented. If, and it's an important if, the executive order is consistent with the Constitution and the laws passed by Congress, it is a legally binding document. That's very interesting to know.
Break that
now
down.
Let's look at this. wait a minute. Let's break this down now. Trump, he is only the president of the executive body. This is not Anna Eve saying this. It's in the American Constitution. Read it, Article 2. The President of the United States of America has executive power. That's it. And it says this document provides instructions, the administering, to the agencies he runs. Well, does anybody know what agencies does the President of the United States of America run? On how a policy should be implemented. Oh, wow, look at this. So now, all these executive orders that people have talked about for years, such as in 1933 when Roosevelt put out this executive order to surrender your gold and silver, I think it was, definitely that only applied to the agencies. What did it say? The agencies he runs. That's it. It never was supposed to apply to the people. But since look, back in 1933, people didn't know the Constitution. Here we are, 2017, Gregorian calendar year, people still don't know the Constitution.
Isn't that more reason why they need to understand that they're not a citizen of that, because it only applies, like you said, to the yes.
Absolutely. So now he's saying that these instructions only apply to the agencies the President of the United States of America runs. Does anybody know what agencies the President of the United States of America runs? And are they constitutionally founded? Because I'm not aware of any agencies that the American Constitution 1791 authorizes to exist. The government on this land is supposed to be very simple. It's not supposed to have millions of tentacles stretching out everywhere, controlling every nuance of people in their private capacity lives. It's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be a very simple, stupid structure. And I don't know where in the American Constitution there is an authorizing of agencies. What would the agency be for? I mean, I'm just saying, and then the 9th and 10th Bill of Rights, it says, look, if it ain't in this Constitution, it's reserved to the people in the states respectively. Now, when it says the state, there can be no state. There is no people. So when you talk about the people in the state, you're really what you're talking about is you're talking about the people who choose to be members of the state and people who choose not to be members of the state, respectively.
Another reason why you can't be a citizen of that. There it is. Bring it down. Break it down.
It's right there. This look. You know what? It doesn't matter what happens. It really doesn't matter what happens. It really doesn't, because on this soil, on this Moroccan soil referred to as America, the people are the boss. The people are the boss. But if the people don't know that they are the boss, then the servants will treat the boss like a servant.
Well, I think that breaks that down.
And that's what's happening now. That's exactly what's happening now.
Yes, indeed.
And I can't say it enough. I don't know where If somebody knows where the executive order is sanctioned in the American Constitution, please send something to me via NHHS eyeswideopen@gmail.com. Send it to me because, all people need to wake up. All people. This is not just about Moors waking up. This is about people waking up as well. Clearly, it don't matter if you're a Moor or you're a modern European. If you don't know the American Constitution, then your liberties are going to be violated one way or another. All of these people that's functioning in some sort of public servant capacity, many of them are operating outside of the provisions of whatever administrative policy that they're supposed to be administered. They're functioning outside of it. The only reason that they can do that is because the people have become so complacent. They don't know anything. There was never a time when you could have an accountant. There was never a time when you had an accountant or even a lawyer because you understood law and you understood how to manage your own finances. We've become so complacent, and we look at it as being privileged, and because you can go around and you can say, oh, I'll have my accountant handle that, or I'll have my lawyer or attorney handle that, and it sounds so prestigious, but really what you just said is you're too stupid to handle your own affairs. You're incompetent. That's what you said. You're incompetent. We need to go back to being competent people. That's what we need to do because it's too much that we are depending on servants to tell us about. And then, the bottom line is, even though they're servants, they're human. And so at some point they may get burnt out, and then their whole attitude or outlook becomes warped, and now they're attacking the people. So we have to take responsibility of some of the things that's happening because we ought not to have ever put this much freedom on a public servant, and we're capable of handling our own affairs. It should have never happened. And so we're at a place, now we have to learn how to do these. Say that again.
But we got well trained by them to do just that.
Yeah. And now we have to train ourselves because another current event that is right on the borders, and we have to admit this. Because of the reconstruction of 1865, the history of the world has been splintered into millions of pieces. So, much of it has been made up. In the putting back together, much of it has been made up. Even when the truth was present, it was made up. So today, in order for us to get the true, I got to find another word to replace history because every time I use it, I always hear his story, and it's not a story. And it's not his. But when you,
because that's what is you'll gain back your heritage and your lost state. So
heritage is the word I've been using. So when you go back and you look at the heritage of the world, you can't. I mean, you don't know, like back in the 1600s, even before that. Okay, all right. They have the majority of people thinking that the original colonizers of the Moroccan soil, referred to today as American soil, they have the people thinking that the original colonizers were modern Europeans when they weren't. The original colonizers were Moors of Great Britain, the Dutch Republic, Spain, the original people of what today is referred to as Spain, what today is referred to as Ireland, what today is referred to as Italy. These people were heavily melanated Moors. But because the heritage has been so rewritten and whitewashed, you look at pictures of people today, and they're not the same pictures of the people when it was originally drafted back in, the 14th, 15th, 16th century. Even before that, they've been the images have been altered, like the names of the land has been altered. And you can see that even today when you look at what they called Byzantine or Constantinople. Today, I think they refer to all of that as the Middle East. It's just the Middle East. What is that? The Middle East. The middle of the East. What the hell is that? So when you go back and you start looking at the heritage of the world, you don't know, in a couple of years, the children are not going to know about Turkey. They're not going to know about Constantinople. They're not going to know about Byzantine. They're not going to know about all of these landmarks that is important, so that you can find where these events took place. You've got to be able to go back to. I mean, people should have the right to go back to the landmass and literally do the history of what was going on that particular soil at that particular time, and know that where you're standing is correct. You don't know that today because they're changing the name of the land once again.
So sorry about that scuffle I just made. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, there's echoing. I got some text messages. There's echoing.
That might have been from me. It shouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah, and I just got a text because somebody checked out Pennsylvania's original charter. Islam, and thank you for that. Okay, William Penn called it the Charter of Liberties. That was 1683, which came afterwards. The original charter of Pennsylvania comes from Charles II, and it was given to William Penn in 1681. Now, Pennsylvania, this charter that was given to William Penn by Charles II of Great Britain, he didn't give him any land. He gave him, because see, what happened was the charter that was given to Great Britain by Morocco This land here that is referred to as America today, it's Morocco. It's not the Kingdom of Morocco. It is Morocco, the homeland. All right? What was given to Great Britain is X amount of, actually, it was given to Great Britain to come over here and set up a company. Much like a charter was given to Toyota or Mitsubishi so that they could come over here and establish the corporation that today many people go to and purchase automobiles. I don't understand the disconnect, and maybe I do because it's mental conditioning. But there is a huge disconnect where you have people who think that Toyota and Mitsubishi can come over here and set up a company, and the company is on in a certain location, and it's not the land. We understand that, but at the same time, we don't understand Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. They even call Massachusetts the Massachusetts Bay Company, and yet people still think that it represents a landmass, and it never represented a landmass. It always represented a company. That's why they were given a charter. They were given a charter, and because what the charter did was, the charter said, we have this treaty to come over here and engage in business, and I'm going to give you a portion of that charter to come over here and set up shop. That's all the charter did. That's all it did. Now, when you go and you read some of these histories where they're saying that they purchased land, what they purchased was the right to have that portion of land to either establish their company or gather goods for exportation, much like Mitsubishi and Toyota today. But we have this horrible disconnect that, we just can't seem to let go of, and it's not doing us any good, so it's really something that we need to, check out and correct.
Right. So if that's the case, then, again, back to citizenship in any of these union states really comes down to citizenship in a sales territory that is has no borders, because, again, this is your national domicile of which these people are operating upon, and so you can't be a national of the national domicile, which is the whole continent, with no subdivisions, as is the definition of a national domicile, and then say that you're a citizen of a quasi-national domicile, which is the definition of what all these union states are.
That's
That's why they did what they did, because it's like, oh, you don't know that this is your national domicile and you want to be a citizen of our half-baked stuff? Okay, thanks for giving us the numbers. And that boils down to not honoring your own mothers and fathers. That's really what it boils down to.
Yep. And that brings me to a lot of these codes. Like, a lot of people, they look at a lot of these codes, and I don't know why. I mean, well, yes, I do. It's mental conditioning. But they look at a lot of these codes, and they immediately go to apply the code to themselves.
Talk about it.
There was something posted on Facebook, and I want to read it because it's very relative to this issue, and it's very relative to the issue of nationality, because when you read it, you realize the disconnect that's going on. All right, here it is. It's entitled, I think it's Title 8, Section 1481, Loss of Nationality by Native-born or Naturalized Citizen, Voluntary Action, Burden of Proof, Presumption. Now, listen to what it is saying. Loss of nationality. Loss of nationality. Can this possibly be applied to a flesh and blood human being? See, that's the key right there. Can a human being lose their nationality? You have to understand what nationality is. Nationality is your blood. If you lost your blood, you'd be dead.
Civil little more too. Dead in the eyes of the law.
No. I don't want to even go there because that's one of the biggest confusions. See, these are public servants. They don't have the luxury. You're dead in the eyes of the law. No, because as a public servant, you're supposed to always be, your job is to be the advocate for the people, not to sit back silently and say nothing.
True.
When the people even make the presumption that they are a fiction, because that's your job.
Okay, I got you. You're right. Silence is fraud.
So now,
yep.
Right? So now when you see something that says loss of nationality, the first thing you ought to be asking yourself is, who does this apply to? And stop trying to throw this on people who haven't declared their nationality. Don't do that, because every public servant, you know, this is a directive from the United Nations. Every government, every church, every mosque, every school, they're supposed to be telling the people who they are. That includes every conscious Moor. So you can't walk around looking at your brothers and sisters. Oh, they dead. Oh, they Negro colored black. Oh, they're niggers. No, you can't do that. Just because, and it doesn't matter if they don't want to take the lesson, it still doesn't change the fact that they are Moors. They just don't know it. It's for them to take the lesson. It's not for you to ram it down their throat. Loss of nationality, who can this be applying to? Because remember, it's a code, not law. It's not in the Constitution. People's nationality cannot be determined by a public servant. They have no say.
Right. You're right, and I just want to interject that this is why the prophet said no one can change your descent nature. This is the reason he said it. That's why, I mean, and you're absolutely correct. So, and that's why he said, listen, you would simply coin that and branded that, but that doesn't mean that's who you are, because no one has the power to change your nationality.
Exactly.
So now, right, but in law, they do call it civil liter mortuus, but, and that's a fact, that in the eyes of the law is a position that one can take, and anybody who doesn't know the law, you know, may find themselves in that position, but there's a remedy for that, and that is to learn it. And you're also right about people who act like they're comparing what they know, just as you're saying, oh, they're not Moors, they're whatever like that. You know, I mean, that goes on, but those times are over. Those times, you're right. You have the duty of not only do we as Moors have the duty, which is what we've been doing, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, so does someone who's supposed to be in a position of a public trustee or a government entity of whatever kind, if that's what they actually are. They also, you're right, they have that obligation. And if we may say that is the reason why their first rule of business is to take what? The oath to the Constitution.
That's right. Now, I want to get back to this because I know a lot of people go, so who does it apply to? It applies to corporations. But here's the thing. It is evidence, further evidence of treason. Because what they're trying, and you can find this, if you go into, like, the Secretary of State and you look up a corporation, all right? Because remember, all corporations have to be registered to do business in any of these states, right? They have a category, and if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this. I used to know I know we did a class on this a couple years ago. They had a category that says nationality, I believe, and it says foreign or domestic. I kid you not. Y'all need to go research some of this stuff instead of chasing down damn United States codes that apply to corporations. It says nationality. Now, if the corporation began in, say, New York, in the New York Secretary of State, it's going to say domestic. But if the corporation was established, say, in California, it's going to say foreign. But this code here, this Title 8, 1481 code, that is applying only to corporations. But it is also evidence of treason because that ties in with the 14th Amendment, which is unconstitutional because it seeks to elevate a corporation to the same status as a flesh and blood human being. Talking about its nationality. Corporation can't have a nationality. It's a freaking piece of paper. It doesn't even exist. If you burn a piece of paper up and people look, some people, let me show you just how real this is. Back a couple years ago, they had, oh my gosh, they had this corporation. I can't even remember the name of it now. They had this corporation that got established, but they would put up these policies. They didn't give the public notice, but they was enforcing them. And so enough of the people went and put in complaints with the Consumer Protection, and that company does not exist anymore today. I'm sure if you reflect back, you can think of some companies that no longer exist today. Corporations, those are corporations that would have lost their nationality. They lost their nationality. They don't exist anymore. I believe, let me see, how do they list them? Because even though they no longer exist, there's a word that they use for them when they, like if you go into the Secretary of State and you put in a corporation that no longer exists today, it uses a word that lets you know that they're gone. Dissolved. Thank you. That's it. Dissolved. That's the word. Yep. That is the word.
So how could a person ever be dissolved, right, if they're still living and breathing?
Exactly. That's how you know these things are not.
Doesn't apply to natural people. So you're actually demonstrating that it never applied to natural people in the first place. Exactly. The only reason that it might be imposed on you is because you believe it should be. You come in speaking as though it already is. Look, if there's some, our challenge as a people is
If you think that somebody anywhere is treating you like you are a fiction, then you are obligated. You are obligated to sue them, constitutional treaty violation. Civil suit, federal civil suit, because this is a serious matter. You know, you have people running around talking about, oh, they denationalized me. They denationalized me. No, they did not. That's not possible. When you say they denationalized you, what you just said is they removed all the blood from your body, and because the nationality is in the blood. And if they did that, well, then you can't be standing in front of anybody talking about they denationalized you. You should be in a coffin somewhere 6 feet under.
Yep. And there are other
why, you know, even you know, I mean, I hear people saying, you know, how can I get my nationality? You already got it. This process of nationalization, it is simply you getting it into your head. It is not about you getting it into your blood. It's already in your blood. That's why the prophet said, if you don't do nothing else, declare your nationality. Keep saying, translation, if you don't do nothing else, you best be clear on what your nationality is. That's what he's saying. You got to be clear. This is the biggest disconnect that the Moors on this Moroccan soil have. Because if you observe your brothers and sisters around the world, somebody walked up to them and said, hey, you're not a Moor, they wouldn't even pause because it's not relevant because they know.
So
they ain't asking nobody nothing.
Right.
Again?
That stuff about you're not a Moor unless you join this club or the MSTVA, that's all bull. And
that don't even happen with our brothers and sisters overseas. That crap only happens here. Why? Because we've been, look, you know what's interesting? I had somebody say to me that the Moors over on the landmass they call Africa today, they have been more colonized than the Moors over here, meaning they got more mental conditioning than the Moors over here. I disagree. Because they know nationality. They ain't asking nobody for nothing. They ain't looking for you to acknowledge. They could care less. But the Moors over here, you know, you got Moors over on this landmass they call Africa that are members of a Christian church, but they know they are Moor. And can no church or mosque give it or take it from them. The Moors over here on this Moroccan soil, they have been I believe they've been more mentally conditioned because they literally think that they can open their mouth and put it out there that you can't be a Moor unless you come through a church. Really, I'm calling it a church because I want people to comprehend just what is being said. I know it's a temple. I know it's a mosque or what, but literally you're saying you can't be a Moor. You can't be a Moor unless you are a member of a church. When you being a Moor is based on the blood of your mother, not the membership of a church. We the only people that do crazy stuff like that and then really think it makes sense.
and I know you laughed, but wow. And then you go into the temple, and like you said, the prophet said, if you don't do anything else, declare, right? Which really essentially means just be clear. You just be clear that you are more. Now, many people are declaring because they know they are more. They're declaring that, and they're becoming clear, right? Now, what he said to the temple is something to really think about. Members, he said, for all members, we must proclaim. He didn't say declare, because it's assumed, I guess, that if you even go to or in any direction of the temple, that you're going there because you know you're a Moor. You're clear about that part. Right. And so when he said that with all members, it's right there in the divine law and constitution, bylaws and constitution, divine constitution and bylaws, that we must proclaim. Well, we know that proclaim means it must be in written form, is a lawful notice. The truth is, I think he made that distinction so that we can recognize it even until now, that what's happening in the temples is most of them are declaring. Like they're going there, standing up, and, I am a Moor, they're having a ceremony, that they're Moor, but they're not proclaiming. You see what I'm saying? They're not doing that. Yeah. Right. But the people in the who aren't in the temple.
So really what you're saying is you have Moors who have declared but haven't proclaimed, and then you got Moors who have proclaimed and haven't
declared. And I'm telling you, but the point is that the prophet said, as for all members in the temple, they must proclaim, which they're not doing. And yes, the people who are not in the temple, they're proclaiming, but they have never declared. So they're taking the paperwork, you see what I'm saying? And they're, not reading it, by the way, but they're proclaiming, but they are not clear.
Yeah,
there are more, and that more means by bloodline. Yeah. But I'm saying that
they can be duped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they can be duped. That is how they can be duped. Because if you don't know that, look, I say this to Rouse all the time, right? Look, if you don't know how to count change, you will be right. You look. One of the first lessons I learned was when my mother sent my oldest brother to the grocery store to buy a gallon of milk years ago, and he came back with the wrong change. He didn't know how to count. But I bet you this, after that day, he knew how to count. He knew how to count after that day. Because my mother took him, the change, and the gallon of milk right back up to the grocery store. And that man never tried to steal from my brother ever again. But my brother knew how to count change after that day.
And so we have our liberties being robbed every day. So maybe if we learn what they are and what the law is and is not, we might not be molested anymore.
That's right.
Got that.
And that's right. That's right. Now, when you look at it, like, you got in these same temples, in some little pockets of groups and little cliques here and cliques there, you got people who are trying to say, come on, join our club, whatever it might be, Moorish, though. Come and join our club. And you got to pay dues, right? Because if you get into any type of a lawful situation, we will come to your aid. Let me tell you, the prophet never taught anything like that. I know he didn't teach anything like that because you know what? The prophet was the one that was very knowledgeable in law. So if he was doing that, he would have never made it to the White House. He would have never made it to the conference in Cuba. He would have never made it to Great Britain. He would have never made it to Mecca over in the east, because he would have been bogged down handling everybody else's affairs.
Right, and he wouldn't have known how to do that.
Right.
He wouldn't have known how to be politically and lawfully knowledgeable to go to all those places.
He would have never been on the hedges and the highway because he would have been bogged down handling other people's affairs. This is why he taught civics, so that you can handle your own damn affairs.
Teaching you to be yourself and be better citizens. So, you're right. That's what the whole thing was about.
Look, the work that Roz and I do, it bogs us down. We push through, but it bogs us down.
Yep.
You know, so we can't hardly do nothing else. But the problem was, he was all over the place. All over the place, doing what was supposed to be done. If he was taking care of other people's business, like a lot of these little cliques, you know, that this was the work that the prophet told us to do. If that was true, there's a lot of people that's bogged down, ain't doing nothing, ain't got no space to do nothing. Probably, you know, it's because that was never the program that he bought. That's not what he bought. You can't have somebody handling your affairs and at the same time come and take your seat amongst the affairs of men. You don't know what to do because you ain't. How you gonna sit and talk about world affairs when you can't even handle your own affairs?
True. That's true.
This is, you know, and this is why we have to get into the federal civil courts, because that's where we're gonna practice on Moroccan soil how to go out into world events and sit down and have conversation and talk, because we would have had to practice. We can even pass it on.
Right.
If we had done this, which, you know, and this is where we are now, and this ain't just for Moors, this is for modern Europeans. If we had to practice, let me tell you, long before Trump got into that seat, we would have organized and put forth arguments, and we would have been able to make a physical presentation, not asking, telling the public servants what they will do. And we got to do that, like the prophet said, together. That means there's got to be a Moor and a modern European together going and representing or presenting the people. That's how it's supposed. This is what the prophet talked about. And this is what the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was all about. Bringing two nations together to work in harmony for the good of all people, whether this is their homeland or they're visiting. This is what we're supposed to be doing. We ain't supposed to be sitting here scared and mouse, you know, oh, woe is me. Trump won't let me leave my own land. Trump won't let me come in to visit with my family, spend time, or even change my location. We ain't supposed to be operating like that. Woe is me. He won't give us the finances that's coming down from the federal, from the national or actually international arena. I got to go beg his agency employees. That ain't supposed to be going down.
And in the give more support to what you're saying, the prophet was teaching you government by even discussing nationality, because it is family and family is government. And in chapter 29, they talk about the magistrate and subject relationship. So when you have your grand sheik that's in the temple, then you have what would be considered the magistrate and subject. It doesn't mean that you are a subject, but that's the relationship of the structure of most clubs and or associations, etc. So in the first line of that, and I remember getting this lesson too a long time ago, and now I see it. And the first line of that is what you're saying is these people are presenting, or these leaders in those positions are presenting the views and the position of the people in which they may represent. And we're not talking about represent in a fake court of law, but represent if they should go out to different affairs or different political things or wherever they're going to go. They bring with them the sentiments of the rest of the people because you have chosen them to do so. Because that whole process is teaching the election process anyway for that person that you choose to be your grand sheik or your guide or your leader or whatever. So in chapter 29 of the Circle 7 Holy Quran, the first sentence says that. It says, O thou, the favorite of heaven, whom the sons of men, thy equals. Now just hold on. That means that they're not grander than you. You just chose them to be the one to go and run the affairs. Because it says, whom the sons of men, thy equals, have agreed to raise you to a sovereign power and set you as a ruler over themselves. So therefore you consider the ends and importance of their trust to be far more and height of thy station. What did he just say? First of all, he just showed you that you've chosen this person in that representative position, and it also says, and to that person, that grand sheik or whatever, assistant grand sheik or whatever, please be clear that your trust, you must consider the trust of the people to be far more than your arrogance and or your what's the word I want? Yeah, your arrogance of the station. It says more than the dignity and height of the station. That means the position. But see, people get their heads blown up because they think they're in a position to dictate to people, if you will. You know what I mean? They don't realize the importance. That's what it says. Please consider the ends and importance of the. They can just, they bask in the position and not in the obligations and duties of the position. Yeah, it's right there. But that being said, that goes along with what you just said, in that they, even with the prophet, he went out and he went to different places. He went to Panama. He went to, he went to all of these places to make, like you said, these discussions. And our people need to be able to know what that means and what that's about, because they have to know the substance of that, which is what we are supposed to be learning through study. But no, they come in and just, like you say, sit there and, no, you do that for me, or you do that for me. And they don't even know what it is that's being done because they have not studied enough to know their position and what the law is and how it protects them and what it means to them in terms of their liberties. That's what it does. So they end up getting raped and murdered and violated, or what the prophet used the terminology of molested by other citizens who can bestow any abuses that they want upon you. And that's really what, that's it. And then you're like, well, I'm going to be in the temple, and like you're saying, and they're going to handle everything for me. No. If that's the case, then you need to make sure that you know what's up and they know what's up. You know what I mean? It's important. Yeah. Very. And one of the key things is, since we're talking about the amnesty of age, They've all been infiltrated, and if they don't know or study the law. Now, some people say, well, I'm in one. They're starting to get into the Constitution. It's too late. I'm not saying it's too late. It's now. It's urgent. It's right now. Not another 100 years of trying to figure it all out. That cannot happen. It's gone. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. We can't. Yeah, I know. We can't wait another 80, 100 years for people to figure it out, when the truth is that this is the time when you must make priest of yourself. You must understand what's going on, and you have to know this. You have to open up your own mind. And remember, Cujo said last night, and it really impacted me. I really thought about it. When he said that, the prophet said, I'm here to bring you out of darkness into marvelous light. Really think about what is marvelous light, right? People are going to places getting 20% of the light, 30% of the light, 40% in these clubs. They're not getting the marvelous light, and it really impacted me to think about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's really a lot that needs to be thought about, because I believe that it's through study. I can't say it enough. Study. Study is going to give you the necessary information to have thought, to have something to think about. And, thinking is to me, I call thinking contemplation, because it's to me, if you read something, and it doesn't matter how short or long it is, but if you think about it long enough, some amazing things will bubble up from within you. And this is how you free the mind. This is how you free yourself from the mental enslavement that has been put on you. That's the only way. There's nobody else. You know what? There are I've been reading this excellent book, and it's not saying anything new. It's just principles, really. And one of the things that is said is that the theme of the whole book really is that you create your world. You're creating your world by what you think. Challenge that a lot of people have is that they think that somebody else can come and take care of the things that they created in their world. That's not possible. And the reason, for a long time, I think we've expressed verbally why it's not possible, but scientifically and from a principle perspective, this is why it's not possible. Because I don't have the access to your mind that created the very thing that you don't like. I don't have the access to your mind to change created the reality that you're dealing with right now. It's not possible. No one has access to that, really. To a degree, no one really has access to that. If you are experiencing something right now that you don't like, only you can change it, because you created it with the thoughts of your mind, which is why, we have to be very careful who we allow to program our minds. And I know most of us, we pay more attention to what we're going to put on our body daily than we care or take the same type of attention to who we're allowing to put things into our minds that is going to work and create.
Mhm.
You know, so you know, the prophet said, study, study, study. He said it for a reason. And if you think of it as a bad word, and I'm just tired of hearing Sister Ann, she always talking about studying. I'm so tired of hearing. You know what? I don't know what else to say to you, baby, because can't nobody come in and change your mind but you. And it's in changing your mind that you're going to change your world.
Mhm.
That's why study is so important. And that's why the prophet said it 3 times. Because if you just think about, you know, and just, you know, try to do this as an exercise. Pay attention to some of the songs or movies or people that you're hanging around. Choose one of them and just listen. Just objectively listen to what is being said. And you will find that what is being said 9 times out of 10 of a negative nature. It's not something that you want, but it's sitting right in your backyard. Meaning it's in your world. It's in your space. It's in your space because you allowed somebody else access to your mind. Literally what you did was you just left your mind open and any piece of trash came in there and deposited some crap, and it's growing.
Mhm. That's especially important now. You know, to be very careful about who you're around. Yeah. You can get injured by them now because everybody is, you know, in a desperate state. And, you know, you can get really injured by people being around you that aren't really with what's happening, you know, and affecting your thoughts. And that's why
correct, but you know, that's the lesson.
Mhm. Mhm. That's why it says in scriptures that you must be evenly yoked. So, you know, you got a lot of people who may have Nate as an example, as a really good example, who aren't or haven't been down with, you know, what you're studying or what you're about or who you say you are, which is very important because after all, y'all made it up. So that means you must be evenly yoked. So, you know, that can be very dangerous, especially in these days and times. I'm sure that some people are going through that right now. You know what I mean? They're going through relationship problems because it's a very serious time, and maybe the person they're with does not know how to handle what's going on. You understand? They can really affect you. You know what I mean? You sleeping with them every night or whatever like that, and if something goes down, they really aren't going to know what to do or how to handle it anyway.
Yes, yes.
And then there's those DJs and that are desperate because they know these are desperate times, and they want, you know, they want to do something, and it's scary because they're scared. You know what I mean? They're feeling, you know, threatened by all these activities or whatever like that, and then they rub that off on you, and can get you into situations you really don't need to be in. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Look, let me tell you, one of the greatest, because, you know, you got people, they just want to stick it to the modern Europeans. They just want to push the knife in and turn it again. Let me tell you, one of the best ways that you can stick it to the modern Europeans is take 100% control of your mind.
Yes.
Take 100% control of your mind, and you program it. Turn off the damn radio, the TV, and stop hanging out with some of these so-called family and friends, because they be programming you too sometimes. You're not even aware of it. And let me tell you, here's a good indication of are you being programmed. It's a good indication. If you wake up in the morning and you're feeling joyful, and then you go and you either listen to something or you watch something or you're hanging around somebody, and that joy turns to something other than joy, you're being programmed.
Yeah.
That's just how simple it is. Do not allow it to program you.
Yes.
All right? Do not allow Trump or anybody else to program you. All right? I'm not really following Trump, but every time I go on Facebook to put something up, or if I go on, I notice lately, this is why I got to get rid of Google. I notice on my phone, if I go to type in something to Google, it's got these 3 categories on things to look up, and one of them always starts out with Trump. So I'm going to be getting rid of the Google search, and I'm going to go and find another search engine because I don't want no pre-suggestions popping up, because even if you don't consciously look at it, this is the power of the mind. Even if you do not consciously look at it, your subconscious mind got it.
Yeah, subliminal.
Subliminal programming. I'm like, no. See, that's why I can't stand Google. I cannot stand Google because they always trying to program you all the time. So I'm slowly eliminating Google everything. I don't want to. If I can't have a phone unless Google is on there, I won't be having a phone, because I refuse to allow Google to program me. I got a new search engine on almost everything, even my Android contraptions. I got Opera or Dolphin, but I don't use Google because they always trying to program you. They ain't stupid. They know that the subconscious mind is where the power is. And if they can just plant it in the subconscious mind, it's going to grow and you're not even going to know it's there. So, nope, you're not having that kind of access to me.
But that's what they do on the archive blogs too, and any archive, any YouTube stuff. Notice how they come in now, and you go, and what they do is they monitor the blog shows and or YouTube posts, that they monitor how many people listen to them, and they get those numbers. Like, wow, they're getting a lot of listens, and then you go to pull up an archive, and they got an advertisement on it. That's part of the programming.
Well, you know what? And let me tell you, I noticed that. So what I do is before I hit play, I turn the volume all the way down.
Yeah,
and
4 seconds you can skip this away.
Yep, because you can't fast forward through it all.
No.
You can't fast forward. So, it's and for those, if you know what, if you are electronically inclined, if you're downloading the archives, I'm going to be doing this, because I do it for myself a lot of times if I'm going to be uploading it somewhere else. But you can chop off, if you're electronically inclined or you're, program savvy, you can chop off the advertisement at the beginning, and they put another one at the end. I only just found that out. They put an advertisement at the end as well. So you can chop it both off.
But did you also notice how before it used to be always, it used to say, you can skip this ad in 4 seconds. And, of course, they still do that. But now some of them, did you notice you can't skip the damn ad? That's why you turn it all the way down.
Yep.
And pretty soon, none of them will be able to skip the ad because it's called progressive programming. If you want to watch these types of whatever you're watching, they got numbers on it, and they are going to do that. Funny.
That's right.
That's why. That's crazy. Yeah.
It is that. So, but anyway, it's, look, this study thing is very deep. You have to always be on guard. You can't ever be laid back in terms of what you're allowing into your head. You can't ever be laid back. You have to always be on guard, always. So, because it's whatever is coming in, it's getting programmed, and that's the mental conditioning that the prophet talks about.
Yes.
That's mental conditioning that the prophet talks about. And it's constantly, look, you can't sit here and say, I'm all up in the prophet's work, I'm doing the prophet's work. Yet, the very mental programming that he came to free you from, you're still participating under it heavily. Now, cleaning it out is a work in progress, but you need to begin. You can't keep on putting it off. You have to begin. So, we have to really take a look at, and, man's business is about reflection. And you know what? There's another lesson that I learned, and I've been doing it all my life, but I really started consciously doing it, and that is at the end of every day to go within yourself and do some house cleaning, because whatever you listen to, whatever you watched, or whoever you was hanging about, they planted crap in your head. You need to go in there, and you probably planted some crap of your own in there. So you need to go through there, and you need to clean it out. You need to sweep it out with a broom, and do a mental picture of sweeping it out with a broom and picking it up and throwing it in the trash and taking the trash out to the curb and dumping it permanently. Because you don't, that crap is going to work on you, and you will find that you won't be able to get started. You may have all the intentions in the world to start, but you're never going to be able to get started because you got that crap working against you, preventing you from starting.
That's the exorcism that needs to be done. That's what I call it. I call it the exorcism of that crap. That's a true exorcism. And then the baptism of of the information that you need to have, but you can't get it until you exercise out that other stuff. And that's why the prophet said, if I told you everything, you would go to sleep, because you're sitting there and you're hearing it and you want to hear it and you want to hear it, but your mind can't compute it yet because you still have that trash in there. Where the information needs to go, you already got something sitting there that you need to, as you said, sweep out in order to receive.
Yes. Yes. And you know what, before, because we got like 10 more minutes before the broadcast, before we end. I have been watching a movie over and over again because it's just been speaking to me. Strange. Have you seen that yet?
I don't know if I have. Oh, wait. I did see Doctor Strange. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Talk about it for a minute, because I'm remembering, because I watched so many, because I had that thing where.
Doctor Strange is about a doctor. All right, his surname is Strange. That's right. But he's so arrogant and full of himself because he's a surgeon, and he's a very, very good surgeon.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just saw that. Go ahead. Yeah, everybody needs to see it. Yeah, go ahead.
And in his arrogance, he's got this super fly, fast sports car, and he's speeding down the road, and he's checking, because he's got the way he's in his car, he has the ability to receive like pictures, much like you would on your phone. So he's receiving these pictures of somebody who was in an accident, and so he's super fast driving, trying to be Mr. Suave and debonair, looking at the photos and travel at the same time, and talking, arrogant. And I think a truck side of the road, he ends up crashing into the truck, and you can see, like, it's slow motions, and you can see the glass from the window just covering both his hands that are gripping the steering wheel. So you automatically know his hands, for a surgeon, for your hands to get damaged, that's like a death sentence. So you already know, okay, he's up shit's creek now. Let's see how he comes out of this. It wakes up where he's got such severe damage to the fingers and the nerves of the fingers that his career as a surgeon is done. But he can't accept that. So he's going everywhere, spending every thread cent that he has, trying to find the answer. And just as he's about to give up, I think the physical therapist, who's an Asiatic brother, by the way, says that he knows of only one person who had such severe damage and recovered from it. And he said it was a client that was coming to him, and then one day he stopped coming. And then years later, he saw him walking down the street. He was never supposed to be able to walk again.
Right.
So to see him walking down the street was an amazement. So he asked him, well, what happened? And he told him he went to Tibet or something. And
Tibet,
and was cured. Something like Tibet. Someplace like Tibet. And so he tells him this. So he goes to this place, and he persists, and he ends up finding the very same people. Now, what's amazing about this movie is they're telling you, in this movie, they're telling you and showing you what I've been saying for years, that all of this is an illusion, because in this movie, the teachers or the masters, in this particular movie, the master is a woman. And she's supposed to be a modern European, but she's a master. She's able to instantaneously alter the world as you see it. Like instantaneously. Now, people probably watch it and think, oh, well, that's just a movie. It's not real. No, that's real. That's real.
It was Astro. Remember
real.
She took him out of his body into the astro?
Yes, and she knocked him out of his body. What was that? Your astral body. Astral projection. I've been studying astral projection for years. Everybody experiences astral projection every night when they go to sleep. But because we have not mastered the control of our mind, we don't know how to go in and out of our body at will, which is how we got stuck in our body.
Right.
How we got stuck, because we created this body years and years and years and years and years and years ago, eons ago. We created everything so that we can slide our spirit into it to experience it. But with the physical body, we slid into this physical body, had so much fun, we forgot how to get out. But we get out every night, but then we come back in as soon as you wake up or something jaws you out of, the astral realm, and you wake up in your body again. We do it every single time that we go to sleep. It's just that we have no control over our mental faculty, so you don't remember none of it. So you're absolutely unaware of what you're going on the astral plane to manifest that then, or to create that then ultimately manifest in the physical plane. That's what we used to do. That's it. That's what we used to do. And that's what you're still doing. And that's why going to sleep, listening to TV and radio is a no-no, because while you're asleep, that is going to work on your subconscious mind, And while you're out in the astral plane, the subconscious mind is going to recreate exactly what it is taking in with no filters, and you're going to wake up to some horror in your physical world that you didn't even know how it got there because you went to sleep with the TV or the radio on.
And a lot of that programming in the middle of the night like that, because I've had that happen to me, is based on telling you that something's wrong with you, and here's the remedy. Oh, we found a remedy to you. Oh, we found a remedy to your whatever your body problem is, and you know, and that's what's being programmed, and that takes you away really from the true remedy. You know, that's what's
right,
happening.
And that's why the prophet said that if you want to master a book or something like that, put it under your pillow when you go to sleep at night.
That energy.
Because when you do that, you just gave your subconscious mind a suggestion. So then when you're asleep, you're going to be reading that whole book. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to know it. And in Dr. Strange, they show you exactly what the prophet Noble Jurali was talking about, because he does just that.
Yes, and yes. Yeah.
He literally go and watch that movie, Dr. Strange, because there's so much information in there. And you know what? It's all about mastering the mind.
That's what it is. Mind of the man. Man is mind. Man is mind. This movie shows you that man is mind. And then some people will say, you know, because like some of the stuff is close to what was in the Matrix, and some people choose to believe, oh, that's not real, the Matrix. No, man is mind. Real. Mind is over all matter. And that brings me to something else before we also suggest another movie. There's some people, and I'm not glad I got this opportunity to say this, there's some people who email me and want to know why we put human race for race, and they say, well, we're divine beings, and we're spirit, and we're the nobles, and, you know, we are royal and all that, and I'm a divine spirit. So I put an end to all of that. By first, there's only one race of all records, and that's the human race. But what one needs to ask themselves is, you're all this divine and spiritual, which we are. I'm not saying that we're not that. The question you need to ask yourself is then, why are you in this physical? Why are you in this human body? Because you're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. Find that. Stop putting all your energy in. I'm not saying stop putting all your energy, but don't be asking that question as if it should be altered. The card should be altered to say that when you already know that you are that. But you are here in this form for a reason, and you need to find that. And that would be your table, like we said. There's a table to prepare for you. So that just led me to say that, because we all know the man is mine, but you're in his physical body for a reason. And lastly, I just wanted to mention another movie that we need to have everyone needs to see, and it's called Hidden Figures.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Now they tell the truth 60 years later about how the rockets got up to the ship, that it was based on what they called colored computers, which were women. And that the astronaut Armstrong, he said, I'm not going there. And
to be specific, they were sisters. The computers were sisters.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And the solidarity was also shown, demonstrated in that movie when they went to give her the none of the modern Europeans, none of them, all with their education and their degrees, could not get the computers to work. She did, because she did her homework and her studies, and she studied, and she made sure that the sisters that was in her department, who were going to get fired once this came in, right? She made sure that they knew, because none of them could figure it out with all their degrees. And so when they came to her to tell her that they want to give her the position of running that, and they were planning to fire everyone else. What did she say, Anna Eve?
She said, "Not without my sister."
She said,
she'll take it, but only if her girls can come with her.
That was awesome. And to think that this is true history. This is what really, really, really happened while our children are running around trying to figure out what their contributions to humanity is. And then they hid from you this truth, but now they put it in a movie and it's documented as true. And it was only 60 years ago, right? Now they're going to admit the truth. It's all a part of the prophecy that Europeans going to have to tell the truth.
That's right.
And that's why you got to go back and erase the trash, have an exorcism so that you can receive your baptism and then move from there, because you have to go down that road and follow the dictates of your soul. And upon going down that lonely, narrow road is where you will find the others that are in the same direction. Not going to someone saying, "Can you do this for me? Can you, we're so downtrodden. We're the slaves from Africa, and we don't know nothing, and we got to get this European, or what you would say, white man, to educate us better." No, that is not how it goes. Islam.
Yes. Yes. So let's see, what time do we have? Oh, it's 10 o'clock. All right.
All right.
With that ends this night's broadcast. Next Tuesday, we'll meet you back here for Principles of Nationality in Action. And we shall be at the National Theater next Wednesday. Physically, we'll be on site at the National Theater next Wednesday. So make sure and come out, and also the following Wednesday, the second and the third Wednesday, we will be there. And then we have Abdullah Mosley Talib Bey on the fourth Wednesday. So, and he's the etymologist specialist. So make sure and check us out. And with that, good night.
Islam, good night.